All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, when you read Ephesians, the 5th chapter and the 15th verse, it tells us to walk circumspectly. When you read Colossians, the 4th chapter and the 5th verse, it tells us to walk in wisdom. What does that mean? At least from a certain perspective, that means that we have to be very attentive and aware of what's going on around us at all times, because it's going to affect our future. When we're dealing with people in the form of relationships, whether it's your significant other, your family, your so-called friends, your associates, your colleagues at work, we have to be very attentive. We have to listen to what they say and how they say it, because it could be a major indicator of how things are going to turn out between us and them. Why do I say all that? Because it's been revealed that Mr. Kyrie Irving has decided that he's not going to re-sign. He's not going to re-up with the Boston Celtics. And of course, that makes financial sense for him, because the NBA is expecting a major financial boon in the next year or so due to the influx of revenue from the legalization of gambling. But also, I made a video a while ago pertaining to Kyrie Irving and his status on the Boston Celtics. He sat down and had an interview with Miss Rachel Nichols, and it appeared to me that he was not entirely comfortable yet with his new role on that team or with his teammates quite yet. And I also stated that it would not surprise me if he left the team, even though I thought that most likely he was going to stay there once he saw that that would be his best possibility to win. In the aftermath of the Boston Celtics' long playoff run, there are many who are starting to question what Kyrie Irving's role on that team is going to be. And of course, with LeBron James' incumbent free agency, it is a possibility that he may choose to be an agent of chaos and try to force Kyrie out of Boston by flirting with the Boston Celtics and even signing with them. Who knows? And as we all know, the Boston Celtics have a history of doing what they want to do. Look at the Isaiah Thomas situation. That's why I state that we have to be very attentive in how the people or the entities that we have a relationship with. That's why I say we have to be very attentive in how the people or entities that we have relationships with have treated others in the same situation that we're in with them, because it's going to be a major indication. So of course they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Let's get right into it. Some people have spoken. A lot of good stuff to get you fellas, and we begin in the association. We finally heard from one Kyrie Irving. You heard him. He said he won't think about re-signing. He's thinking about redemption. So Max, we all know what kind of mastermind Danny Ainge is. What should he do with Kyrie?
It's a very good possibility that Kyrie Irving will not get his redemption with the Boston Celtics. He may end up being dangled as trade bait for Kawhi Leonard. Who knows? If Kyrie does end up being traded to the San Antonio Spurs, the Spurs were one of the teams on his list. So it may work out even better for him in the long run. Who knows?
Danny Ainge should look to trade Kyrie Irving.
What a shock.
And the reason is, from what Kyrie is thinking, let me say this about Kyrie Irving.
Well, before you say anything about Kyrie Irving, let me say this. The only way that I believe that Danny Ainge should trade Kyrie Irving is if he's assured that he's going to sign LeBron James. Because then you traded Kyrie with a Jaylen Brown and a first-round draft pick maybe for Kawhi Leonard. And then you compare LeBron James and Kawhi Leonard on a team that is being coached by someone who may be able to influence LeBron James into playing in a real system for the first time since he's left the Miami Heat.
I've made fun of his intelligence because he made an incredibly stupid and irresponsible comment about the earth being flat.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an idiotic comment. But his basketball IQ is extremely high. And more importantly, he has the desire to be great. He has the thing that smart GMs look for.
Well, Kyrie Irving doesn't just have the desire to be great. He already is great. For what he does, he's great. And many times, certain commenters will ask me questions in regards to what my categorizations are when it comes to greatness, because I've called certain players great and other players on the cusp of greatness. I evaluate various players' greatness based off of what they do, what they're bringing to the table. So if I call a Draymond Green great, he's great for what he does. Draymond Green is a Swiss Army knife, so he's great at what he does. Kyrie Irving is on the cusp of greatness because when I talk about Kyrie Irving, I'm comparing him to Steph Curry. I'm comparing him to James Harden. He's not quite on the level of a Steph Curry yet because he has yet to lead his team to the promised land. which I think that he was on the verge of doing this year had he not been hurt. At the very least, they would have gotten to the finals if Kyrie had not been hurt. So Kyrie's level of greatness is totally disparate from a Draymond Green's greatness.
And development guys look for in the NBA when they're trying to identify the next great player. Kyrie has that stuff in him. He wants to be great. But he's also, even though he thought the earth was flat, I don't think he's stupid when it comes to his money. And
no, he's not stupid when it comes to that at all. He's making a very wise decision, as many other players have made, including Draymond Green, that they're not going to re-sign any contracts with their current organization because they know there's going to be a major influx of revenue due to the legalization of gambling.
Stephen A., the gambling laws have changed. And you know what that's going to do for sports money? It's going to explode it.
Exponentially explode it.
And that includes, I believe, the salary cap in the next CBA.
Okay.
And I think part of what Kyrie is saying is, let's see how I'm not signing any deal now. Let's see what the money's going to be like under the next CBA. I mean, Durant may be saying the same thing.
They all are.
Labor's smartening up.
Draymond Green already announced he's not going to sign his extension.
Yes. If KD signs back with the Warriors, expect him to sign a one-year deal.
Right.
Okay.
Right. They know here comes the money. Good for them. Kyrie Irving's been working his whole life toward this, and he should get his money. But the Celtics have a lot of young, cheap parts. And they could also move him for a part that, even if it's as expensive, may be someone who's committed to being there. Because that's one side of it, is the money. The other is, for a guy, think about Kyrie's situation in Boston right now.
I want to pause you for a second.
Go ahead.
Because I want you to get back to what you were saying about why Danny Ainge should move him based on his statement. What is it about his statement that makes you say Danny Ainge should move him?
I think that Max may be picking up on what I picked up on months ago in the interview that Kyrie Irving had with Rachel Nichols. Kyrie can be rather mercurial. And I stated that in the previous video. That's why now we're hearing that there are intonations that he may consider joining forces with the New York Knicks.
He is thinking about redemption, not re-signing. So that's the economic part I just told you. And here is the reason I think Danny Ainge ultimately needs to question what Kyrie is thinking about in terms of his future in Boston.
Okay.
You want out of a situation with LeBron James. In the East, that gives you the best chance to compete for a championship.
Right.
No, it does not, sir. And the Celtics' run in the playoffs this year has already proven that leaving LeBron James had no effect on the possibility of him getting back to the championship round. As a matter of fact, all it did was reveal the greatness and the profundity of his decision. Because had he stayed healthy, there's no doubt in my mind that they would have beaten the Cleveland Cavaliers. This notion that playing with LeBron James gives you the best opportunity to win a championship is totally hypothetical. Once again, the man is 3-6 in the finals.
Right. Obviously. Kyrie came on this show talking about, double talking a little bit, talking in code. I want to blossom as a player.
No, he was not talking in code. He was just trying to give you the least amount of bullshit that he could give you so that you would not have enough to take and run with. All he was saying when he was on your show was that he was ready to move forward.
Paraphrasing and such. And my point to him was, Kyrie, time out. You have your best chance to win championships with LeBron.
Not true.
Obviously, he disagreed. And you know what? He wound up in a position where he was right. He has his best chance.
Good for you, sir.
Chance in Boston. You were with a storied franchise. You practically have the perfect team around you. They got to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals without you or Gordon Hayward. Who, in his position, wouldn't say, yes, this is where I want to be? Only someone who has serious thoughts of not being there.
Ding. Once again, I'm trying to remember what the name of that video was that I did when Kyrie sat down with Rachel Nichols, but I stated that in that video a couple of months ago. It was obvious to me, based on Kyrie's tone, even some of his facial gestures, that there was some uncertainty in regards to what his overall place was on that team and within that franchise in his mind. That he was not quite comfortable there. He was not quite situated there yet. Sometimes it could be growing pains. Sometimes it could be that he may be having second thoughts if that's actually the team that he wants to continue on in his career with.
Or else you would say, I want to be here. For that reason, Danny Ainge should be looking to move him, not for a bunch of little parts, for something like him. Whether that's Anthony Davis or Kawhi Leonard or some megastar that might be available, even if it's a 3-team trade, he needs to seriously consider that.
Two things. Number one, you don't get to say that. See, first, what you need to do is step back and pay homage to Kyrie Irving and essentially apologize on national television. When that man sat up there and said he wanted out, you went off. When he went to Boston, you said congratulations because you ain't going to beat LeBron. You'll never beat him. You got no business departing. It gives you the best chance. And then the man went to Boston and balled out. And I think we all can.
And let me say this also. Not only did Kyrie ball out, he had his best season as a professional. I had one brother in my comments try to allege that Kyrie had his best season with LeBron last year. No, sir. Per 36 minutes, Kyrie Irving was better this year with the Boston Celtics. He just played less time.
Can at least come to the conclusion that if Kyrie Irving had been healthy, LeBron might not have made it to his 8th straight finals.
Absolutely, sir. The series went 7 games with no Kyrie.
I mean, listen,
No,
they went to a game 7.
Would not have made it to
fine,
a
fine, but even worse for you in terms of your point. Now we get to the point about Kyrie Irving. Let's not talk negatively about Kyrie Irving. Let's surmise for a second that, all right, we deduce that you're telling the truth. Kyrie Irving's thinking about himself as dollars or whatever. Well, let's analyze that for a second, Max Kellerman. Does Russell Westbrook have a championship?
Nope.
He's getting $217 million. Kyrie Irving's 90. I mean,
Kyrie should get 217. He should get his money.
Okay, so I know that, and I know you're not disputing that.
Well, Kyrie actually should get more than Russell Westbrook because he's better than Russell Westbrook. And that might be, quote-unquote, controversial to many of the basketball aficionados out there, or quote-unquote fans. But Kyrie Irving is a better player than Russell Westbrook.
All I'm trying to say to you is, Max, you don't have cats getting more than him. They get 9 figures more than him. 9 figures more than this.
Right, Stephen A. Smith, but we all know why that is. A lot of times, how much you're making is based off of when you sign your contract. So Kyrie's going to get his money.
Brother, are you kidding me? Come on. Kyle Lowry signed a 3-year, $100 million deal.
Well, Kyle Lowry is the most overrated player in the National Basketball Association.
I love Kyle Lowry. Covered him from his days at Villanova. Love that brother. Happy for him, and he's a damn good player. Kyle Lowry is getting paid more than Kyrie Irving.
On a championship team, Kyle Lowry is your backup point guard.
$100 million. He signed a 3-year, $100 million extension. So when you look at it from that perspective,
I'm not even sure that I would take him over Terry Rozier. I'm just being real with you. I'm not an admirer of Kyle. I need to decompress Lowry.
We ain't bringing to account Steph Curry because there's nothing to question there. Chris Paul turned down $200 million. Departs from the Clippers, is going to get at least $150 from Houston. That would be more than Kyrie Irving. He is not just a bad brother. He's got a ring. He's got a chip. So we talking about his money. Now let's
largely due to his own efforts he has a chip.
Yes. Thank you for pointing that out, Max Kellerman. He was just not along for the ride.
That's right. So now let's look at the roster of the Boston Celtics. If I'm Kyrie Irving, and I see Jason Tatum, and I see Jaylen Brown, and Al Horford's already getting paid, and he's balling, and Rozier and Marcus Smart are on the come-up, and we know how Danny Ainge rolls.
Right, but are they going to be able to re-sign Marcus Smart? I think that he may be even more important than some of their other components, Marcus Smart is. If they could maintain that 3-guard rotation in regards to Kyrie, Marcus Smart, and Terry Rozier, along with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, I think that they would have the inroads on getting to the finals even without signing anyone. They don't need LeBron, and they really don't even need to trade for Kawhi.
We know how Danny Ainge does business, how he does things. You see some young cats on the come up. Terry Rozier's making $3 million. $3 million. Okay? Marcus Smart is sitting up there talking about, I think I'm worth at least $14 million a year. And I would support him because of what he does on the defensive end of the floor. Their Game 7 performance notwithstanding.
And beyond that, Stephen A. Smith, Marcus Smart is what you like to call a quote-unquote rough rider. That dude's not scared of anybody. We saw that when he went up and blocked LeBron James' dunk, I believe, in Game 6.
Both those brothers could play. I'm proud of them. What I'm saying to you is this. $14 million or $3 million. Combined, that still doesn't come up to half of what Kyrie Irving is worth in today's market. And if I'm playing for somebody like a Danny Ainge, I have no problem with the position that Kyrie Irving has taken, because from a business perspective, looking at competition among contemporaries, from a business perspective, looking at competition amongst your own teammates, there is no other way for Kyrie Irving to think about it.
There is another way.
Sure.
He could have said something like this. And I'm making this up as I go, so maybe
Sure,
this
sure.
won't
No,
be perfect.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I
Here's a
understand.
signal he could have sent.
Okay.
He could have sent a signal like this. Look, the cap is what it is. We'll see what it's going to be next time. I think I'm worth a supermax, and, you know, this team has a lot of guys to pay. But if this team wants me here, I want to be here. In other words, he could say, yeah, I know it may be hard for Danny. He could send the message, Danny Ainge is going to have to figure all this out. But this gives me my best chance to win.
Max Kellerman, there's a few problems with your hypothetical scenario of what you believe Kyrie could have said. Number one, Kyrie Irving is not the type to talk about how much money other players are making. Number two, he does not have the responsibility to make things comfortable for Danny Ainge. Nor should he come out and say, I think I'm worth the supermax. Everyone knows that he's worth that already. What's known does not have to be stated. Also, please keep in mind that he was at a press conference to promote his new movie, the Uncle Drew movie. So he's really not at liberty to go into great detail on possible contractual negotiations. Those type of things handle themselves when you're a top-notch player. You already know where you're going to be slotted in regards to how much money you're going to make.
Win. I want to play in Boston. He did not send that signal. He sent the signal that he might not be in Boston.
But how about him feeling the need to be valued? I mean, this is a guy that was in Cleveland, playing second fiddle, feeling undervalued.
And beyond that, Max Kellerman, maybe he doesn't feel like he needs to be in Boston. Kyrie Irving's the type of person to say, you know what, I'm going to make my money regardless. I didn't originally want to come here anyway. I can go anywhere and make it a championship contender. I'm pretty sure that's how he feels.
And underappreciated. He goes to Boston, and the second he goes down, he might be feeling it's more the same. Not to mention the residue left behind. Hold on. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. It's not about fault, Molly.
And beyond that, Molly Karen, please, you're not part of the debate. Speak at the end. You're the moderator.
Molly, it's about reality. The reality is that Isaiah Thomas was there. He averaged 28.9 a game. And the second he got hurt, all of a sudden he was shipped up out of there. He thought he had a promise. He thought that it was reneged upon. As a result, he left. He was a bit salty. You're Kyrie Irving. Not only did you depart from Cleveland, but...
Let me say this very quickly. The issue that I have with how the Boston Celtics treated Isaiah Thomas is not that they shipped him out once they saw that he was damaged goods. That's what they did, and that's what was best for business. The issue that I have is that they lied to the brother and told him that the injury was not as extensive as it actually was, and they had him try to play on an injury that ended up being debilitating in the long run. That's the problem, that their medical staff misdiagnosed him.
But you inherited that situation. All of those things you gotta think about that.
I'm going to put you on the lie detector test right now, right? Okay?
Lie detector?
I hear what you're saying.
Okay.
I hear what you're saying. But now tell me the truth about what you're feeling. Is this primarily Kyrie Irving saying, well, I feel underappreciated here, or the financial reality is this, or is this really Kyrie sending the signal, I don't know, under any circumstances, whether I want to be here. I may want to be somewhere else.
Well, first of all, he would love to be in New York. Let me be very, very clear.
Absolutely. That's the point that Max Kellerman is getting at, Stephen A. Smith. And I'm not surprised at that sentiment because, once again, I noted in that interview with Rachel Nichols that the brother seemed very unsure of what his possible future could be in Boston.
And I think the Celtics know that.
He would love to be a member of the New York Knicks. He would
And
love
I
the
think
Celtics.
he
He would
has
love
a
to be
better shot of winning
He
in
would
Boston.
love to be the star at Madison Square Garden. Kyrie, this is what you have to understand, Mom.
Let me say this very quickly. If you were to add a Kyrie Irving to the current roster of players that the New York Knicks have, along with the fact that they have David Fizdale as their coach, they could be a very competitive team in the Eastern Conference, even in this up-and-coming season. If Kyrie Irving were to have been traded there, I think that they could be a team that could win 40 games, even 45 games. But in regards to Kyrie's immediate chances of being a championship contending player, a leader on a championship contending team, of course he should stay with the Boston Celtics if he can. But we never know what Danny Ainge is going to do. Danny Ainge's mind is always working. That's what makes him arguably the best GM in the National Basketball Association.
Yeah.
When you win a championship and you've accomplished the ultimate goal, In a lot of people's eyes, that's a license to be selfish and think along the lines of what makes you happy most, as opposed to staying in a winning situation. We underestimate the power of that, but it matters. And we don't appreciate it as much as we should, because being in this business, no, we're not these athletes, but we ain't working regular 9 to 5s, getting paid regular $9 to $5. We have privileges, perks, luxuries, and what have you, but we still want what we want. They could be the same way, and that's okay.
I think the Celtics look at the Knicks, they see New York, they see Porzingis, they know that everyone knows.
Not just New York, not just New York, though. Not just New York, though. There's a couple of places you wouldn't mind being.
Of course.
You wouldn't mind being in Miami either.
But the Knicks are right there, and they also know that the Knicks...
That wouldn't be a bad acquisition for the Miami Heat if they were to somehow attain Kyrie Irving, but I think that it would be better for them to sign him as a free agent rather than to trade him. Because to me, Miami already has a dearth of talent as it is. And somehow they still, every season, win about 43 to 45 games. If they were to get 2 talented players on their team, they would be immediate championship contenders.
The Knicks have never had a spectacular player, an above-the-rim or crazy handles player that has brought them a championship, not in the last 40-plus years. And if Kyrie could do that, he'd be as big as anyone in sports.
Gotcha.
I think the Celtics are worried about that, and Stephen A., I think Danny Ainge either already has or will soon start to make some phone calls on the low.
We don't disagree.
Well, let me say this very quickly. Danny Ainge has been making phone calls on the low for the last 6 months on Kyrie. I promise you that.
Let's just not act like it's all on Kyrie. There's justification for him feeling the way that he feels. But go ahead.
Go to the Knicks, automatically an icon. All right, everyone.
But anyway, that's it on the topic regarding Kyrie Irving and why he has chosen to not re-sign with the Boston Celtics. We'll see what happens with him. Peace.